If the consumer's not spending, sales tax is down, and actually real estate excise tax is down, the construction industry slows down. And this chart is a reflection of that. The reason why you see two different lines there, one is representing what transpired before there was a rate increase, and you look at the increase in fees with community development. But when you take a look at what's transpired in 2008 as we began this economic downturn, our levels are going back once again to 2001, 2002. How do we sustain our operations when our revenues are reverting back to levels that we have not seen in quite some time? Staffing levels. I wanted to just briefly show you exactly what's going on with our staffing levels. We have 77 unfunded positions right now currently in the county's budget. Those are positions that we are not filling. Those are positions that will remain vacant in 2009. I wanted to point out through the Department of Community Development, they have been severely impacted by this economic downturn as far as reconstruction is concerned. Just economic development. We have had 23 positions that have been downsized from 2008 to 2009. There's 23 positions lost in the community development department. 77 positions overall in the county budget is currently unfunded, will not be filled this 2009 fiscal year. So what is the county doing? We're experiencing all of this loss of revenue. We're looking at our sales tax, we're looking at REIT dollars, we're looking at construction is down. But what are we doing on the expense side? A lot of discussions on the expense side. How do we all come to the table and realize exactly what we need to do to trim our budget? We were faced with a situation when I first came in 2008 of looking at the $5.9 million worth of expenses that we needed to curtail. $5.9 million that we needed to cut out of the county's general fund budget. And how did we get there? On page 9, just wanted to briefly highlight on page 9 some of the items we had considered. Looking at our projected deficit, looking at operational efficiencies, how can we run better as an organization? Looking at overtime and extra help, those items. Looking at the use of reserves, our training, our travel, those type of expenses that we go through, our technology initiatives. Do we look at the deference of our technology initiatives? Percentage reductions. We were at the table with a number of our departments and elected officials to talk about reductions overall. Do we do across the board reductions? We come up with a dollar amount. There's $5.9 million that we need to cut out of the budget. How do we derive out that figure? Do we leave it up to the departments and our offices to make that decision as far as, hey, here's a percentage reduction and we're looking forward to you coming back to the table with some proposed cuts? Or do we look at it globally and we take a look at items across the board? That little wheel that I presented here on page 9 is just giving you a feel for some of the items that we actually had to take a look at in order to trim our budget. But how do we move forward in 2009? One, a number of municipalities and counties throughout the state of Washington in the same situation. We have cut at the beginning of 2009. We have went into the 2009 budget with what we thought would be a trim and slim budget. And we find ourselves with this economic downturn that just continues, that we had to make additional reductions in expenses. A number of counties, we are not, the only ones going through this. There's a number of counties in the soup. I had recently attended a meeting in Leavenworth a couple of months ago and met with a number of financial minds throughout a number of counties in the state of Washington, and everyone's talking the same thing. Sales tax revenue is down. We have cut previously. Where do we turn now? Furloughs, work reduction, scaling back in hours as far as employees. It's the same situation throughout the counties. But what are we looking at as we move forward? One of my duties and one of the things that we definitely need to take a look at how we operate is to better forecast. I know it's kind of hard to say because 2008 was one of those years that was almost an anomaly when you take a look at what transpired in 2008. No one had a crystal ball to really predict how we would end in 2008, and no one really had a crystal ball as to know when was the bottom. Did we actually hit bottom, or are we still going through that process? No one has a crystal ball to really predict that. One thing that we do know of is that what we're hearing is towards the tail end of 2009, there's some expectation that things will begin to turn around. What does that mean for the county? Does that mean in 2009 we would experience that in our last quarter? More than likely it may be towards the tail end of the year. But there's some expectations out there that things will turn around the fourth quarter of 2009. And from a budget standpoint, from a budget point of view, my job from the county is to provide the commissioners and provide the community at large, to the best of my ability, to manage the budget and to provide a forecast. And that forecast is based on a number of items. It's based on historical data. It's based on expertise, what we hear from the community, some of our groups that we put together, our Citizen Budget Committee in particular. But it's taking a look at how do we forecast our revenues and expenses and what do we take into consideration. Then it also comes down to policy and direction. Are we looking at our operational policies from a budget point of view? Are we taking a look at our investments? Are we taking a look at our capital projects? All those things are just items that we need to consider as we move forward in 2009 and prepare for 2010. Again, this is just giving you a flavor of what we are experiencing in the county. The loss of revenues, gives you a historical perspective. Some of the things that we had to do to just curtail our expenses and what we take a look at, and how we're moving forward in 2009. I hope the handout is helpful for you. Again, it's just giving you just a brief synopsis of what we go through. I definitely want to thank you for having me here tonight, and Commissioner Bauer as well. We'll be here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.